While everyone watched Tesla break records and grab headlines, something bigger was happening behind the scenes. A company nobody paid attention to was quietly building an empire, one piece at a time, one breakthrough after another. BYD just revealed a new kind of engine and battery system that could make gas cars, and even some electric cars, completely outdated. This breakthrough means you could soon drive farther, spend less on fuel or charging, and have more reliable choices than ever before. But how did BYD outsmart Tesla and the traditional car companies? What mistake are the big brands still making that could cost drivers thousands? And why could this shift make buying a car in the next few years totally different for you? Stay with us, because understanding this story might save you thousands and change how you think about the future of driving forever. The fifth-generation bombshell. Everything changed in the city of Xi'an, a place steeped in history and rebellion. It was there that BYD dropped a bombshell so significant that it sent shockwaves rippling across the entire automotive world. The unveiling of their fifth-generation dual-mode system was not merely another product launch. It was a moment of quiet devastation for every company betting against them. The company did not just improve on existing technology. They fundamentally reimagined what a hybrid engine could be. Attendees who expected incremental updates witnessed something entirely different. Engineers, journalists, and rival executives sat stunned as the specifications rolled out. A hybrid system that boasted the highest thermal efficiency ever recorded in a mass-market vehicle. A range so long it sounded like science fiction. This was not marketing bravado. This was math, engineering, execution. What BYD revealed was not an evolution. It was a new species altogether. Gone was the notion that hybrids were simply a halfway point to full electric vehicles. BYD's creation outclassed many pure electric vehicles, while erasing the biggest anxiety drivers still harbored: range limitations. In one stunning stroke, BYD did what Tesla had avoided. They embraced the complexity of combining electric and combustion power, then perfected it. A dual strategy that Tesla dismissed was now shaping up to be BYD's masterstroke. Before that day, most assumed that hybrid technology was yesterday's news. After the fifth-generation reveal, it became clear that hybrids could very well be the bridge that led to the full electrification of the world. The numbers were mind-bending, yet what truly mattered was not the data, it was the emotion. Experts who had spent decades building their reputations around existing rules suddenly realized they were obsolete. As applause echoed through the hall in Xi'an, a far more significant noise was rising beyond the stage: the crumbling of an old order. Still, BYD's real advantage was just beginning to show itself: the unthinkable efficiency. When news began circulating about the thermal efficiency of BYD's new system, skepticism was the first response. 46.06% thermal efficiency. It sounded absurd. Engineers knew that reaching even 40% had taken traditional automakers decades of relentless refinement. For context, Formula One engines, costing millions of dollars and tuned for mere minutes of operation, barely achieved 50% efficiency. Yet here was BYD, offering nearly the same performance in vehicles designed for everyday families. This was not a marginal gain. It was a quantum leap. Fuel is inherently wasteful. In traditional combustion engines, only a fraction of gasoline's energy turns into motion. The rest becomes useless heat. BYD's breakthrough flipped that dynamic. Drivers would now be paying for energy that actually moved them forward, not energy that evaporated uselessly into the air. The real-world consequences were staggering: less fuel consumed, longer trips taken, less environmental impact, lower operating costs for millions of families worldwide. BYD's hybrid wasn't just an efficient machine, it was an economic weapon for consumers. Beyond the laboratory numbers, this efficiency changed the ownership experience itself. Forget tedious fuel stops every few hundred miles. Imagine driving across entire countries without ever searching for a charging station or a gas pump. The dream of mass electric mobility had always been constrained by compromises. BYD had erased half of them in a single blow. Still, the story was not just about better numbers. It was about smarter philosophy. BYD proved that innovation did not have to be flashy to be transformative. Sometimes the quietest changes were the ones that overturned the world. As these realities sank in, one uncomfortable truth emerged among Tesla executives and traditional automakers alike. They had been chasing the wrong metrics. We dug deep to uncover the hidden shifts reshaping the industry. And if that shortcut helped you see the future faster, hit subscribe and back us up. Yet efficiency alone was not enough to change the future. A deeper miscalculation had been unfolding, one that exposed a blind spot no one had dared to acknowledge until now. Tesla's blind spot. Tesla built its empire on the idea that pure electric vehicles were inevitable. Batteries would improve. Chargers would proliferate. Consumers would fall in line. It was not a bad bet, but it was an incomplete one. By betting everything on full electrification, Tesla assumed that consumer behavior would shift faster than technological reality could deliver. Meanwhile, BYD took the opposite view. Transition, not revolution, would define the next 2 decades. Instead of demanding consumers leap into a new world, BYD built a bridge toward it. Their hybrids, anchored by revolutionary efficiency, allowed drivers to enjoy the best of both worlds without anxiety or sacrifice. While Tesla raced to build more supercharger stations, BYD quietly gave drivers vehicles that could bypass the need for one entirely. While Elon Musk tweeted about robotaxis and Martian colonies, Wang Chunfu and his engineers doubled the range of everyday life. What Tesla misjudged was not just technology, it was human nature. Consumers crave convenience more than ideology, freedom more than purity, security more than experimentation. As Tesla pushed harder toward an all-electric vision that still felt risky to many, BYD offered certainty, range, and reassurance. The contrast could not have been sharper, and as buyers flocked toward the safer, smarter choice, a new realization spread through the global auto industry. Tesla's dominance was no longer inevitable. It was being challenged, not by another dreamer, but by a doer who had one more secret weapon still to reveal. One that would not just challenge Tesla's business model, but redefine what a car itself could be. Blade battery and the hidden power behind BYD's rise. In the world of electric vehicles, batteries are not just components, they are the battlefield. For years, heavy and expensive lithium-ion batteries ruled, tolerated for their flaws. Automakers accepted inefficiencies as the price of progress. But BYD saw opportunity where others saw defeat. Instead of tweaking the old formula, they threw it out completely. The blade battery was not a simple improvement. It was a revolution. Long, slim cells stretched across the pack like swords sheathed inside armor, eliminating wasted space and bulky frames. The result? About 50% more energy density, stronger structural integrity, and lighter weight compared to traditional lithium iron phosphate systems. Every design choice followed one command: do not just store energy, master it. BYD also defied chemical norms, rejecting nickel, manganese, cobalt in favor of lithium iron phosphate, a cheaper, more stable, dramatically safer chemistry. While competitors clung to volatile formulas, BYD proved their durability through brutal stress tests. When nails were driven into the blade battery, it neither smoked, nor burned, nor exploded. It simply remained silent, unbothered, commanding respect. More than a battery, the blade became a structural element of the car itself, increasing crash safety and reducing system complexity. In a market obsessed with range anxiety and battery recalls, BYD engineered a different kind of weapon: trust. But the blade was only the beginning. Underneath BYD's quiet rise was a second, even more powerful secret: an intelligence system designed not just to react, but to evolve. The mind behind the machine: Xuanji, DeepSeek, and DiPilot. In most cars, the brain is a fragmented mess, different processors managing different systems, constantly translating signals like a room full of toddlers trying to organize a parade. BYD found that unacceptable. They built the Xuanji architecture, a unified neural center that sees, thinks, and acts instantly. Where conventional vehicles need milliseconds to reroute a braking command through several mini-brains, BYD's system responds almost immediately. All sensors, cameras, radar, millimeter wave report to one mind, not dozens. That unity means no hesitation, no confusion. The vehicle sees the world holistically and adapts in real time. Xuanji turned fast reflexes into something rarer: unshakable confidence. Yet even the sharpest brain needs instinct. That is where DeepSeek artificial intelligence takes over. DeepSeek is not a static program, it is a living system. Every BYD vehicle equipped with it becomes a learning platform. Lessons from one car navigating a Beijing storm are instantly absorbed by others in Sydney or Berlin. DeepSeek does not just react, it anticipates, adapts, evolves. It recognizes submerged lane markers after floods. It detects pedestrians emerging from behind trucks before human drivers even notice. It adjusts to your driving style, your habits, your patterns, becoming not just a machine, but a companion. And unlike competitors that gatekeep advanced tech behind luxury models, BYD weaponized accessibility. With the launch of DiPilot, BYD brought self-driving features once reserved for six-figure cars into models costing less than $10,000. Top-end DiPilot, 600 versions, deploy triple light detection and ranging units for centimeter-precise environmental mapping. Entry-level versions still outperform many so-called autonomous systems found in vehicles 3 times the price. High-speed navigation on autopilot, automated valet parking, memory navigation, technologies once built for billionaires became everyday realities. Luxury automakers scrambled. Tesla found itself outpaced not by another Silicon Valley giant, but by an electric empire built in China, expanding faster, smarter, and more democratically. BYD did not just tweak the market, they detonated it, because when revolutionary technology stops being rare and starts being common, everything changes. And BYD quietly but relentlessly is writing the future where mastery, safety, intelligence, and accessibility are no longer luxuries, but expectations. Tesla's reaction, scrambling to regain the lead. The moment the news from Xi'an broke, Tesla's headquarters in Palo Alto shifted from confidence to concern. Inside glass conference rooms overlooking Silicon Valley, senior executives pored over technical papers, earnings reports, and leaked efficiency data from BYD. The numbers did not lie. Tesla had built its empire on the promise that full electric vehicles would soon dominate every street, every city. Yet here was BYD, not only challenging that timeline, but offering a bridge that consumers trusted more immediately. Ultra-efficient hybrids that needed no new infrastructure, no range anxiety, and no compromises. Within days, emergency meetings were called. Whisper networks spread across Tesla's engineering teams. Questions previously unthinkable now floated openly. Should Tesla reconsider hybrids? Could a dual strategy preserve their dominance? Musk himself, known for his bravado, went silent on social media regarding BYD. Instead, Tesla's moves became visible through their decisions. Slashed prices, rushed software updates, accelerated timelines for new model releases. Investors grew restless. Analysts asked pointed questions during earnings calls. How would Tesla respond to a threat they had so arrogantly ignored? Inside Tesla, there was a growing realization that they had been outmaneuvered not by flashier technology, but by humility, precision, and adaptability. BYD had done what Tesla refused to: meet consumers where they were, rather than demand they leap ahead on faith. Still, Tesla was not the only empire now standing on shaky ground. The collapse of old promises. Across the Atlantic, the boardrooms of Mercedes-Benz buzzed with discomfort. Plans that had once charted a glorious all-electric future by the year 2030 now quietly shifted under review. The math no longer made sense. If consumers could buy a BYD hybrid with over 2,000 kilometers of range, why would they gamble on a full electric vehicle with a fraction of that performance and a higher price tag? Ford Motor Company faced similar dilemmas. Billions pledged toward electrification were suddenly seen as dangerous risks rather than visionary bets. In late-night strategy sessions, executives discussed delaying investments, scaling back production lines, even reviving hybrid models that had once been deemed transitional fossils. Volkswagen, which had counted on dominating China's electric market, found itself humiliated. BYD's surge in local and international sales left Volkswagen's expensive electric vehicle lineup looking outdated and overpriced. The uncomfortable truth settled in. The transition to electric was no longer about who shouted loudest or made the flashiest promises. It was about who solved problems most elegantly. And for now, that crown belonged to BYD. The collapse of old promises was not a headline. It was a quiet retreat, a shifting of timelines, a rewriting of marketing slogans. Publicly, companies spoke of strategic realignment. Privately, they scrambled to survive. Yet as the corporations twisted themselves into knots trying to adapt, something even more powerful stirred at the street level, the awakening of a new kind of buyer, a new consumer revolution. For years, electric vehicle marketing revolved around ideals, saving the planet, embracing the future, joining the vanguard. Tesla's early adopters bought into that dream willingly, proudly posting about their low emissions and high-tech lifestyles. Yet, for the average buyer, dreams were never enough. The reality of charging deserts, battery degradation fears, and prohibitive prices kept millions firmly in the realm of internal combustion. Consumers hesitated not because they hated change, but because change felt unreliable, inconvenient, expensive. BYD understood this hesitation not as resistance, but as wisdom. By offering hybrid systems with astronomical efficiency and real-world practicality, BYD tore down the emotional barriers, stopping mainstream adoption. Drivers no longer needed to choose between saving the environment and ensuring they could make it home safely. In doing so, BYD tapped into a deeper emotional current, the longing for security, control, and freedom. Suddenly, buyers who once balked at electrification found themselves seduced by vehicles that did not demand sacrifice. They could enjoy electric-only driving during their daily errands, then cruise worry-free across entire countries without ever searching for a charger. This was no longer about saving the Earth. It was about saving time, saving money, saving peace of mind. As BYD's sales exploded, traditional loyalty began to evaporate. Brand names that had commanded generations of respect, Mercedes, Ford, General Motors, no longer seemed invincible. What mattered now was not pedigree, it was performance, trust, and value. A consumer revolution was underway, one not driven by slogans, but by simple daily victories on the road. And as consumer behavior shifted, BYD was already executing its next brilliant move, an invasion into markets long considered unassailable. The global expansion, BYD's conquest beyond China. It started subtly. A few dealerships in Norway, a handful of test vehicles in Australia, partnerships whispered about in Latin America. Then the tide turned. In country after country, BYD launched not with bombast, but with undeniable value. Vehicles priced lower than local competitors, equipped with technologies rivals could not match, backed by a reputation for reliability that grew with each passing month. In the United Kingdom, the Dolphin and the Seal models captured attention not because they were exotic, but because they made economic sense. In Australia, BYD's Atto 3 rapidly became one of the fastest-growing electric vehicle models, offering range and features that competitors charged tens of thousands more for. Latin America, Africa, and Southeast Asia, markets often ignored by Western automakers, welcomed BYD's affordable electrification solutions with open arms. Where other companies saw logistical nightmares, BYD saw opportunity. They established local manufacturing plants, adapted vehicle designs to regional needs, and built alliances with governments eager to accelerate green transitions. And in markets where charging infrastructure lagged behind, BYD's hybrids offered a perfect stepping stone, winning consumers who wanted an electric experience without the risk of being stranded. In less than 3 years, BYD evolved from a Chinese success story into a bona fide global powerhouse. They achieved this without fanfare, without flashy product launches, without massive advertising budgets. They simply built better cars at better prices and let the results speak for themselves. Yet even as BYD expanded its physical presence, a far deeper revolution was brewing beneath the surface. A revolution that would not merely change how cars were sold, but how the future itself was shaped. Because behind every vehicle sold, behind every mile driven, a silent war was unfolding, a battle for the soul of mobility itself. The fall of the combustion empire. It did not happen with fireworks or grand speeches. There was no single moment when the combustion engine was declared obsolete. Instead, it was death by 1,000 quiet victories, each more significant than the last. For more than 100 years, gasoline ruled the roads. Oil shaped geopolitics. Pistons and valves defined mobility. But now, without needing a revolution, BYD had made the internal combustion engine feel like a relic. Their hybrids, with ranges that embarrassed traditional gasoline vehicles, required no ideological commitment, no sacrifice. No anxiety, just quiet, ruthless efficiency. As more consumers embraced these ultra-capable hybrids, the balance of power began to shift. Governments, seeing demand patterns change, accelerated policies to favor electric and hybrid vehicles. Oil demand forecasts, once sacred to economists, started revising downward. In boardrooms once brimming with confidence, automotive executives grappled with an unthinkable reality. The age of gasoline was ending, and it was ending faster than anyone had prepared for. The irony was hard to miss. Tesla dreamed of a future powered entirely by batteries. BYD, by offering a smarter transition path, might end up achieving it faster. And in a strange twist of fate, the two companies, so different in style and philosophy, now found themselves facing the same ancient enemy, the political fallout. Across capitals from Washington to Berlin to Tokyo, lawmakers scrambled to keep pace with the shifting landscape. Policies written for a slower world suddenly looked outdated. The rise of BYD was not just a commercial story, it was a geopolitical earthquake. Trade tensions flared as Western governments, alarmed by China's growing dominance in electric vehicles, scrambled to throw up barriers, tariffs, new taxes, aggressive subsidies for domestic automakers. Every tool of protectionism was pulled off the shelf. Yet BYD, with its diversified supply chains, flexible factories and localized manufacturing strategies, danced nimbly around each new obstacle like it had seen them coming from miles away. Meanwhile, domestic automakers, battered by shrinking market share and crumbling public trust, flooded the halls of power with lobbyists. They pleaded for slower transitions, bigger incentives, and bailouts dressed up as innovation support. They argued for time, for breathing room, for mercy. Policymakers were trapped between two fires: defend the old industries and risk falling behind forever, or embrace the faster, cleaner future being shaped by companies they could not control. Some clung to nationalism, insisting that heritage mattered more than performance. Others, driven by cold pragmatism, began pivoting toward partnerships, incentives, and quiet admissions that the old champions might never catch up. The political battlefield grew more chaotic with every passing month. New alliances formed, old loyalties fractured, trade wars flickered into life across continents. Leaders promised voters they would stand strong, even as markets slipped from their grasp. And while politicians debated in press conferences and back rooms, consumers acted. The real power was slipping away from government hands and into the hands of drivers making simple, personal choices every day. By the time most governments realized what was happening, it was already too late. The floodgates had opened, and the current was irreversible. Yet beyond the halls of government, beyond the fading speeches and crumbling tariffs, a quieter and deeper revolution was taking root, a transformation inside the hearts and minds of everyday people. The consumer awakening. In crowded cities and quiet suburbs, in booming megacities and remote villages, drivers began to see mobility through new eyes. For generations, owning a car had symbolized freedom, the open road, independence, status. Yet the definition of freedom itself was changing. It was no longer about chrome grills, roaring engines, or horsepower. It was measured instead in range, reliability, energy independence, and the simple question of whether you could trust your car when it mattered most. Families that once hesitated to embrace electric vehicles, fearing the high costs, the charging headaches, the unknowns, now found themselves drawn to BYD's hybrids. Here was something different. The perfect balance between the dreams of the future and the realities of everyday life. No more fear of dead batteries on cold nights. No more long, anxious searches for a charging station on lonely highways. No more wondering if technology was asking too much of them too soon. The vehicle was no longer a fragile experiment. It was a trusted companion, a bridge between today and tomorrow. And with each mile driven, with each trip made effortless and worry-free, an old loyalty died a little more. The idea that you had to choose between saving money and saving the planet faded into irrelevance. Consumers realized they could have both, and they could have it today, not 10 years from now. In that quiet realization, a massive shift began. It was not powered by protests, or marketing campaigns, or government orders. It was powered by simple, personal decisions that echoed louder than any corporate promise. And with each passing day, the entire dynamic of the global automotive market tilted, slowly but surely, away from the old kings, and toward something new, the new global titans. At the center of this unstoppable shift stood BYD, not as a scrappy challenger, but as a fully formed leader. They had built more than just a car company. They had built an ecosystem, an empire of battery production, chip design, software engineering, manufacturing innovation, and green energy recycling, all tightly controlled, perfectly integrated, and ruthlessly improving. While traditional companies fought supply chain crises and chip shortages, BYD remained self-sufficient, resilient, and aggressive. They did not just weather storms, they sailed right through them. Other automakers scrambled to license what they could no longer build themselves. Factories from Europe to South America began fielding quiet proposals from BYD executives, offering partnerships, investments, local jobs, and a path into the future. The message was no longer subtle. BYD was not just exporting cars, they were exporting the future. And as the old giants fought rearguard battles to preserve shrinking empires, BYD moved forward without waiting for permission, apology, or approval. They proved that quiet mastery could defeat noisy ambition, that precision could outlast spectacle, that understanding the daily needs of ordinary people could shake the foundations of an industry built for elites. The century-long reign of gasoline engines was ending, not with a dramatic explosion, but with the steady, unstoppable rise of something smarter, faster, and cleaner. And at the heart of that new world stood a company that once nobody noticed, now quietly reshaping history, one silent mile at a time.